Ranked is live, ranked is live, ranked is live! I'm Charles.
I'm McCurdy.
Henry Frankenstein takes a bunch of corpses and assembles his own custom-made body. He then brings it to life, claiming himself to be like God. His baby boy eventually escapes and accidentally drowns a little girl. Then a mob of torch-wielding villagers burn him alive, and he dies.
That's the plot of Frankenstein, my man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so due to the success of Dracula, Carl Laemmle Jr. commissioned the production of Frankenstein, which came out the very same year. Film is also based mostly on the play version, like Dracula was based mostly on the play version. There are a lot more differences in this version than there are the book version. I think this is drastically different from the book.
Once again, buy the book by clicking the shopping link or like the affiliate link in the description. Either one, buy the book. It's a good book.
Buy
It's
the
a really
book.
good book.
It's a good book. Definitely a good book.
It's written by a woman, and I respect
Mary
women.
Shelley. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Anyway, originally, Bela Lugosi, who just played Dracula, was slated to play the monster, even though he actually just wanted to play Dr. Frankenstein. But finally, they decided on Boris Karloff to play the monster, not Frankenstein, which is a huge misconception that has happened till this day. Usually people think Frankenstein, they just think of the monster.
It's like the
Two different
ultimate,
things.
well, actually, moment within horror movies. Well, actually,
Frankenstein was the scientist, not the monster.
Henry Frankenstein.
Henry Frankenstein in this. In the book, it's Victor. For some reason, they decided, let's make Henry a cuck and then have his friend who's banging his wife be Victor.
Oh, Victor, you're a dear.
That's not actually what happens, but I always think that when I'm watching this movie, because it just feels like that.
So that's the first, well, actually, and the second is tied right into it, which is that the original Frankenstein isn't actually a doctor. In the book and this movie, he's a college dropout who is more mad scientist than physician.
He wished us to supply him with other bodies, and we were not to be too particular as to where and how we got them. I told him that his demands were unreasonable, and so he left the university to work unhampered. He found what he needed elsewhere.
Oh, the bodies of animals. Well, what are the lives of a few rabbits and dogs?
You do not quite get what I mean. Herr Frankenstein was interested only in human life. First to destroy it, then recreate it. There you have his mad dream.
But later films introduce his sons, who are in fact doctors, and I think this is where the misconception originates. Inevitably, we'll refer to Henry as doctor and the monster as Frankenstein, but regardless of accuracy, when somebody says Dr. Frankenstein, you know exactly what they mean. Likewise, when somebody says Frankenstein, you know exactly what they mean. Pop culture has a tendency to simplify things, and it's usually for the best. Can you answer a question for me real quick? Why does it say from the novel by Mrs. Percy B. Shelley?
Her husband is Percy Shelley, so I don't know if there was some kind of sexism thing where they were like, oh, well, a woman couldn't write this, so we're going to put her husband's name down.
Mrs. Percy Shelley, is that the equivalent of like Mrs. Ryan McCurdy? Like your wife writes this book and it's from the novel by Mrs. Ryan McCurdy?
I guess that's the only conclusion I can come to that. That's just so weird to me. I did not catch that.
I mean, and then right there, adapted from the play by Peggy Webling. It doesn't say Mrs. John Webling, her husband, her hypothetical husband. It's because, you know, the history of this book is such that this is like, you know, a lot of feminists want to point at this and scream and freak out as if this still is how it is today. But basically, she wrote the book, and it was unpopular at the time for women to do anything but cook, clean, and suck balls or whatever. So her husband took ownership of the text. All that aside, though, by the time this movie came out, I assume it was well known that she did it, but maybe not. In the 30s, did people know? I mean, when was this book published?
So yeah, the book is much older than like Dracula was to this. So the book for Frankenstein came out in 1818.
Yeah, so by then, this
you would think
it
they would
should
have known,
say from the novel by Mrs. Mary Shelley, but it still has
I don't know.
Maybe the rights were still under her husband or something.
Yeah. Speaking of big names, this is the first film in the series directed by James Whale. He's not somebody that people would recognize now. He's not a big auteur director, but for these films, he kind of made a name for himself. They made a movie about him that stars Gandalf and Brendan Fraser, who would also later be The Mummy, back in 1998 called Gods and Monsters.
Gods and monsters.
that is kind of based around his life and the making of these movies. I kind of think of him as like the James Gunn or the Russo brothers of these movies, if you were trying to relate them to MCU, because he does stand out when you see this particular movie. His direction definitely elevates this movie just instant. Like right as you're watching it, you're like, oh, this is what modern movies feel like. This is great. I enjoy this.
Yeah, like versus Dracula, which we said was born out of the silent era and feels more like just filming the stage, the stage play version. This is like, oh, this is what a movie is.
This feels
cinematic. Is directed. This is well directed.
Other people, just quick mentions. We got Colin Clive plays Henry Frankenstein, not Victor, as I'd said earlier. He was apparently a raging alcoholic and dealt with tuberculosis, which is very common at that point in Hollywood, which is kind of unfortunate. He had passed away not that long after the sequel was released, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Mae Clarke plays Elizabeth. His wife, Edward Van Sloan, returns, not as Van Helsing, but this time as Dr. Wallman. Again, if they'd done a new MCU, they could have had an actor that was like Van Helsing popping up in all these different movies, going under different guises of different names. But obviously he plays a different character here as Frankenstein's mentor, but it's just kind of cool to see him. Oh, he was in that one, this one. And then speaking of also returning, we get Dwight Frye returning, this time not as Renfield, but as Fritz, not Igor.
That is the third, well, actually.
Many people see this movie and they first think, oh, it's Frankenstein and then Igor, the Hunchback. No, Igor came much later in the series of films, but the very first film, it's Fritz, is the lab assistant hunchback.
What's the book?
Played by Dwight Frye.
Is the book
I don't even know
Fritz?
if he does. I don't even know if he
does he even
has one
exist?
I don't think he has one in the book. I don't recall him having a lab assistant, and I think that was something that was adapted either from the play or it was for this movie.
It's like Q. He didn't exist in the books, but he was invented for the movies to just facilitate the plot. Once again, as usual, this is meaningless to the ranking. This is meaningless to the ranking. This is meaningless to the ranking. The books are just maybe something we'll talk about. All that matters is the movies. Maybe we'll talk about the books here and there.
As far as the books to this movie, like Dracula, I feel like it is pretty close to the book as far as the general beats of what happens in the story. This movie is not close. Very much does away with the book. Has its own way of going about certain story beats. Some of the elements are still there. Him getting married, him creating the monster, him having a mentor.
There's a lot more to say, but who cares?
Right.
Let's just deal with the movie.
don't have, I'm not going to go through all the differences. It's too many. Yeah. There's too many to count. Whereas like Dracula, it's a little more distinct where you could be like, yeah, this is different. They've changed these characters, but overall, it's kind of the same plot.
The only thing maybe worthy of note is that the monster in the book is a man. He speaks. He has a point of view. He's not just like a child, but that's the core little twist they make is that in this film, he's basically a newborn baby in the body of a giant. He's huge, and yet he has the mind of an infant. Imagine taking a kid and putting them into a chemically induced coma, and then they grow up and they're like Shaq. They're the size of Shaq, but they have the intellect of a child, and therefore they have the emotionality of a child. And so out of nowhere, they might, what's the YouTube-friendly term for RAPE? People say EPAR or grape. A person that big with the emotionality of a child would beat the hell out of you or EPAR you at a moment's notice. That's terrifying.
It's very much like sickening. What's the famous book, Grapes of Wrath? Not Grapes of Wrath. What am I thinking of?
Of Mice and Men with
Of
Lenny.
Mice and Men. Thank you.
I had me some too. The lady gave me some, and then I lost her.
You're nuts. You're kind of nice feller. Just like a big baby.
Very much so.
Where I want to play with you, and he just chokes the life out of you.
Yes.
Don't mess it up. Let go. Let go. You let go.
Don't.
Let go.
Yell. Don't do that. Georgia's gonna be mad if you yell.
Anyway, real quick, I'm gonna drink a glass of vodka this episode out of this this Germanic.
This movie, I told you, you should be drinking some beer with this movie. Dracula, I think wine. I think red wine.
Aren't you drinking? I never drink. Why?
This is a beer movie. They don't say it takes place in Germany, but it's like, it could be Germany. They never say where it takes place.
The guy's name is Frankenstein. It's a Germanic name.
It's Germanic
They're in a village of people who are like wearing lederhosen.
I just want to hang out and be in that village. I just want to go to that beer garden and hang out. And like,
I do too. Those are my people.
That's one of the things I love about it. I just love this movie when you get to that point. I'm like, I want to be at Frankenstein's wedding. I just want to hang out and drink beer, and it's a great time. This whole movie's a great time.
And I hope there's plenty of beer. At all events, there's lots more where that came from.
So Charlie, I guess the real question is what did you think of this movie? Where would you rank this movie on our list of 2 films so far?
This is a very obvious straight to the top. No question about it.
I would agree.
Question
we should talk about it, but I agree.
Yeah. The last couple episodes I talked about, or at least the first Dracula episode I talked about, the themes, and they're hinted at. You have your Dracula themes that cover most vampire movies.
All sorts of these stories,
you have and then you have your Frankenstein themes that I already kind of hinted at, newborn baby in the body of a giant, and then immediately being misunderstood and rejected by the world, and to be created and then to immediately be targeted for termination by your creator.
What can we do? Kill it, as you would any savage animal.
Is, in and of itself horrific and sad, but that's what you see. You see Frankenstein's obsession with creating life, which any man can do. He can have a child, but he has this weird, obscene obsession with creating life out of nothing.
The brain of a dead man, waiting to live again in a body I made with my own hands. With my own hands.
In an unnatural way. Let me get all these dead bodies. Not an unnatural way, cut them up and sew them together and bring this kid to life, this kid. But then immediately be like, oh, we have to abort this kid, and then naturally Frankenstein's like, F off, I want to live, but then at that point, the monster.
The monster.
He goes,
you mean the monster? Well, hold on. Well, actually, it's the monster. It's not Frankenstein.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. Well, now you do.
In terms of the filmmaking, right away, it surpasses it in a very obvious fashion.
Yes, I 100% agree. I think James Wales is the reason this movie stands out. Whale? Not Wales. James Whale. He's actually Gandalf. It's actually Gandalf. It's Ian McKellen.
Pricks. Hard, arrogant pricks. Just cut it out, okay? Isn't it bad enough that you've told me you're a f***ing fairy?
But yeah, he stands out. I think one thing I do like is just he adds a lot of levity in these movies that, we didn't get in the last 2 movies essentially, but we don't get that kind of sense of levity that you get out of his movies. They're just much more playful. And then I even think a lot of the way that he frames scenes and shots and takes on coverage, it's just way more entertaining and things are a little bit quicker.
Quite a good scene, isn't it?
It grabs your attention. And I think it's also all the cast grab your attention a lot, much more easily. It's not the slow burn type movie. There's always something that's keeping you engaged with this movie, which I think is just missing from Dracula. It's like there's no soundtrack. This movie has not just music within the movie, but also sounds and sparks and all sorts of stuff that's just like, oh, this is a movie. This is what I wanted to see. This is the thing I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
So
one detail is that the whole normal brain versus abnormal brain thing it's kind of hilarious. It's silly.
It's awesome.
It's funny
silly.
When he drops the jar. It's funny. But it is dumb. It's unnecessary. It wasn't necessary to the story. Like, oh, why is the monster the way he is? Oh, because he has a criminal brain. That's less compelling than and less interesting and less meaningful than just having this hodgepodge of human parts being brought to life and then essentially being a child in an adult's body. It didn't need that element.
Observe, ladies and gentlemen, the scarcity of convolutions on the frontal lobe. All of these degenerate characteristics check amazingly with the case history of the dead man before us, whose life was one of brutality, of violence, and murder.
Instead of developing a character in the monster, we lean on this criminal brain thing.
Here we have a fiend whose brain
must be given time to develop. It's a perfectly good brain, Doctor. Well, you ought to know. It came from your own laboratory.
The brain that was stolen from my laboratory was a criminal brain.
Oh, well, after all, it's only a piece of dead tissue.
only evil can come of it.
I disagree. I think I like that bit because then, even then, when Henry Frankenstein's talking to his mentor, he's like, well, I actually stole the brain out of your place. And he's like, yeah, the brain that you took was not the normal brain. It was the messed up brain. And then he's like, the realization is like, oh, crap, the Abby normal brain. And then he's at that realization, like, oh, crap. Like, this isn't going to go as well as I thought it was going to go.
But my point in that it just changes the character a little bit. What I mean by that is that specifically it's like, it goes back to what I was saying about how these movies are not dramas, they're melodramas. And so instead of having this deeply complex Frankenstein's monster character, they simplify it with like, oh, he has a criminal brain, therefore he just wants to kill people for no reason. But throughout the story, he kills people either accidentally or in self-defense, not malice. Fritz is an absolute butthead to him. Van Helsing won't stop talking about killing him.
I will see that it is painlessly destroyed. No. Yes, leave it all to me.
So I definitely don't fault the monster for getting rid of both of them.
Dr. Bauman's been murdered in the tower.
The monster.
He's been seen in the hills terrorizing the mountainside.
So the criminal brain thing would make sense if the monster began behaving like a criminal, but instead he behaves like a child that needs to be trained and disciplined by a father, which Frankenstein attempts for about 30 seconds. My point is that if you got rid of the brain subplot, it wouldn't change anything regarding this theme of Frankenstein becoming a father and then having zero interest in actually being a father. Like I keep harping on the fact that these are melodramas and not dramas. Today, there absolutely would have been at least one scene between Frankenstein and the monster of just father and son just trying to understand each other, just time between them. But it literally just goes from like, it's alive, it's alive.
It's alive, it's alive, it's alive.
And then the next scene's like,
you have created a monster and it will destroy you.
Patience, patience. I believe in this monster, as you call it.
And then he walks through the door, and he's totally chill until Fritz scares the shit out of him, as any child would react, and then that's it.
It understands this time. It's wonderful.
Frankenstein, where is it? Where is it? Ah!
Quiet, you fool!
Right away, they're like, oh, we should kill him. Today, there would be at least one, probably several, but at least one scene between between father and son, between creator and created, and that would have been welcomed, but I don't count on it from a movie from 100 years ago that was just establishing this for the first time. It's like the dry run, but that would have been welcomed, but I can't have that expectation for it. But again, these are clear melodramas that don't care for deep developments of character. They're more fixated on just good versus evil. And again, that's why they did the criminal brain thing. It's just like, he's evil. The monster is evil. Even though he's kind of an innocent child, he's evil. We're not going to concern ourselves with depth. We're not worried about depth. We just need to communicate right away that he's bad, and that's what they did with the criminal brain. And, it services the melodrama, whereas a movie today, it wouldn't be melodramatic, it would be dramatic, and it would develop him as a character into... He is sympathetic. He's a very sympathetic character. When he's crying out in pain at the end, that's him at his most sympathetic. That's when the audience is supposed to be like, oh, this poor guy.
It's like King Kong at the time.
Yes. And as opposed
kind of that
to
same vibe.
Like you said, of Mice and Men, he would have maybe accidentally killed Fritz. Like he's like, let me give you a hug, Fritz, and he'd choke the life out of him, and then he'd be like, what have I done? And it's like, that's not his fault, because he's like, if my nephew, there was an episode of the Bond series where I had a cut on my neck because my nephew was just a monster. If my nephew, who's 4 right now, if he was in the monster's body, he'd be like, I love you, Uncle Charlie. And I'd be like, good thing, dude, buddy, stop it. And it'd be like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. That's more interesting. That's more compelling than, oh, he just has a criminal brain, which doesn't really mean anything, really.
It's more of like an explanation and a motive to give something to the character that you can latch on to be like, oh, okay, that's why he is. But I mean, I guess I get your point, though. I do understand where you're coming from as far as
my point being this. It would have been enough to just show that people judge him by his appearance and are afraid of him, so then he reacts to their rejection. Because his appearance is terrifying. That's really all you needed. Just him being judged by looking the way he did. It didn't really need the criminal brain thing. But again, who doesn't love the scene where he's like, let me grab the brain, and he drops it.
He drops it. He's like, oh,
I'll just grab the abnormal's brain. Yeah. So
that to me is funny. The one theme that that stood out to me in the movie that I was like, oh yeah, like I think people quickly go to the Prometheus stuff because the original book is called Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus, and they go to that stuff of him like making the Frankenstein and things that you were talking about as like him being a child,
making the monster.
Grown man's monster. What did you say?
Making the monster. He didn't make a Frankenstein. He made a monster. Frankenstein made a monster.
Okay. But the theme that I latch onto that I think about because I'm also a dad is that there is this constant theme in the story, people being taken away by their obsessions and neglecting their own duties as a parent. And you have that with Henry Frankenstein because he's like neglects his wife.
Elizabeth, please, won't you go away?
Who he's supposed to be getting married to in a couple days. He's neglecting all of his other duties at home.
What's the matter with my son? What's he doing?
He's completing his experiments, that's all.
His dad is concerned because he's like, what are you doing? And he's like obsessed with making this creature and doing all these terrible things in light of it and not really caring about it for other people because he's like digging up graves, stealing things out of universities, doing all these horrible things just because he's like obsessed with this idea.
For the sake of science, which science did. For a long time, it's like, how did we learn everything there is about human bodies?
They have to get cadavers. They'd pay people to go grave
They would
robbing.
rob graves, and then they'd be like, "Oh well, look, this tibia fits into this, fits into the fibia mibia." It's like, how do we learn that? Well, we learned it by taking bodies apart. It's like why people today donate their bodies to science. It's the nature of sacrifice that we need to do that, but it's gruesome, grotesque, unnatural, terrible,
the one
awful.
thing, but it would just be, I would just stop there. But then the fact that the movie later on brings this theme back up in a more slight way that I don't know if people always recognize it. But there's a scene where there's a villager who's a dad, but basically he's outside. His daughter comes to him. He's like, hey, Dad, will you play with me? And he's like, oh, I can't. I'm too busy today. I got so much work I have to do. And essentially it's like, I'll be back. And he leaves his daughter. And then, of course, Frankenstein's monster comes. They have their like Lenny moment from Mice and Men. And of course, he ends up killing the girl.
I can make a boat. See how mine floats?
Oh.
No, you're hurting me! No!
But that is the one little moment where I realized, oh, there is a little bit of a connection with that theme of neglecting your parental duties or neglecting your own personal duties over an obsession or over work or over something else when you should be balancing those things. So he's not there to protect his daughter, of course, so his daughter dies. And I think it's one of the more memorable scenes in the movie is when he's like walking with his dead daughter through the street and you see all the people just looking and they're like, they can't believe. And then like, I think one of the worst parts is when he walks and there's a bunch of school children that are probably all of her friends and they're just like can't believe that this little girl is dead.
It lends to the whole idea of being misunderstood because the monster was just having fun with the girl. You know, you're like, play.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you've ever interacted with a golden retriever, they're a retarded dog in a massive dog's body. And they will like knock you down. Like, I love you. Every golden retriever I know, I'm like, hey, buddy. And they're like Lenny. I love you. And they'll like knock you over and break your neck on accident because they don't understand how big they are. And so he's playing this innocent little game with this girl and then he plays a little too hard and she ends up drowning. It's perfect. That is perfect. That is hardcore. That's all they needed to kind of demonize him because it's got that perfect element of it was an accident and we as an audience are aware that it's an accident and that's tragedy. He didn't mean to kill the girl, but he did. That's all we needed. But then the monster goes and just randomly attacks Frankenstein's fiance. Like he like bitch slaps her or something. Like he just climbs through the window at random and attacks her. Kind of a step too far. That was unnecessary. That kind of undermined the idea that he is an accidental monster. By attacking the fiance, he's just a straight up monster. And that's where, again, it's the whole criminal brain thing. It's like, why did he do that? Well, because he has a criminal brain, which is more melodramatic, soap operatic bullshit.
I could also see it in the same regards of like what you were talking about earlier about, you know, being having a child's brain, I've met people in my past that have like the mind of a junior higher, like they're mentally they're at a junior high level, even though that they are a grown adult or even much older. They were essentially like a Lenny in real life. They didn't have the control or the mental awareness to be like, hey, maybe don't say that to that girl or don't come up to that girl. And I could see you could make an argument or a stretch of an argument to say like him doing that to the Frankenstein's wife is kind of in that same world. But I also know that for a fact that is a holdover from the books that isn't as well explained in the movie. And it is one of the things that I think, at least I will say, none of these Universal monster movies are perfect. I think the scripts are cut a little too much in certain spots, and maybe for time, maybe because they were like, oh, well, we got to have this thing and this to motivate this. Like one of the issues I always have every time I go back to watch the movie is I'm like, wait, how do they know that it's Frankenstein's monster?
Maria, she's drowned.
My poor man. Why'd you bring her here to me?
But she's been murdered.
Because he comes to her and he's like, my daughter's been killed. And then, they bring all the townspeople and they got all the torches and pitchforks. And then I always forget that, like, there's that little moment where he says, all right, you're taking your group. You're going this way.
Ludwig, you will search the woods. Those are your group. Herr Frankenstein, you will take to the mountains. Those are your people.
Frankenstein, you're taking your... And then you're like, oh, okay, Frankenstein told them, he's like, I made a monster. You attacked my wife. Like,
oh,
then
by the way, I took all your dead relatives and I chopped them up and I remixed them into this beast.
Monster.
And I put a criminal brain, put an abnormal brain in it, and then I brought it to life. And now it's gonna kill you all. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
Didn't mean
scenes
to.
that aren't in the movies.
I get what you're saying, though. Nobody saw him with the girls, so they're just assuming he's responsible when she could have just drowned on her own. It would have helped had they said she had a broken neck or something, but of course it would have been a bit much for back then. Having killed 2 men and bitch slapping a bride-to-be, I don't blame the father for jumping to conclusions.
These movies aren't perfect, but that's the one little like plot thing that I'm like, I always forget that that's there, but it's like, okay, that's how we connect to the end of the movie. But regardless, I still think I agree with you when it comes to where this is ranked. I'm like, right as I put it in, I'm like, this is better than Dracula. Like, it's not a contest. It's like, yeah, Bela Lugosi as Dracula is great, but Boris Karloff's great in a non-speaking role. Colin Clive is great as Frankenstein. Edward Van Sloan's back, and he's also still good. And then all the other characters actually just seem to have more personality to them. I think the characters in Dracula overall just don't have as much personality. Outside of Dracula, Van Helsing, and Renfield, there's not much there. But in this movie, it's like everybody has a personality. Everybody is kind of a fun character in some regard. Even the dad, even Frankenstein's dad is kind of fun. He's wearing his little fez in his room and he's just like complaining about his son. He's just like, what is he up to? All that stuff's great.
Even just on the simple themes.
Dracula is more about like prolonging life through death.
The blood is the life.
But then you've got this movie is more about
creating something that then turns on you. Is a fascinating concept. I mean, it's patricide, it's matricide, that's a fascinating concept. So is destroying something that you've created. I mean, like ending the monster is an abortion. Like, and right away, like, what's his, the Van Helsing in this movie is like, you got to kill this thing. and Frankenstein's like, I guess. He's like, yeah, dude, you got to abort this baby, right? You have to abort this 300-pound baby immediately. And so those two are fascinating. And that where like on that conceptual level, it automatically beats Dracula.
Yeah.
Plus the filmmaking, that all just immediately defeats Dracula.
The filmmaking is just like boom, it's a better movie.
Yeah.
I never caught this, but now as an adult, I catch it. Is when after the "It's alive" scene, which is probably the most infamous, iconic scene of this movie. That just like you're like, oh yeah, this is why these movies are great.
It's moving. It's alive. It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Oh, in the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God.
Right after that scene. Did you notice what Frankenstein's doing right after that scene?
Masturbating?
He's smoking a cigarette. Isn't that not emblematic of like just having sex or creating life essentially? Is like he's sitting there smoking a stogie. Did you ever notice that? That was something you could draw that conclusion and being like, oh yeah, he's smoking a cigarette. He has just created life. This was just a big thing. It's almost just like having sex, and which is always something you see in movies from that era is like after you have sex, you would smoke a cigarette. I just think it's kind of fun little tidbit. I was like, I never noticed it.
Sex?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a little tidbit I didn't notice until now. And they're like, yeah, we just created life. We just made this thing happen.
But that's what I mean. Right then, he's smoking the cigarette, and he's talking to Van Helsing, and Van Helsing's like, dude, you got to abort this child.
You got to get rid of it.
And then he walks in, and he walks in backwards. What is the significance of him walking in backwards?
My guess is because like he is a child and still trying to figure out his body, that he would not be operating like a normal person.
Yeah. I think it's just creepy.
It might have been just because it's a better reveal, as if he's coming backwards and we don't see him right away. That whole sequence is interesting because the way that they cut it is like he walks in backwards, we see his face, we cut to a tight close-up and then cut to an even tighter close-up, and it's like very quickly. And you don't usually see that. Most time you wouldn't do that in any kind of editing, but to make an emphasis on his horrific features, they do that, which is kind of cool. The fan base for this is very small because it's just not as popular as it used to be. Like this used to have a bigger fan base for people who were much older than us back in the boomer generation. Because again, this was the cool thing. This was the cool thing that was in film. This was the closest thing to comic book movies at the time.
They probably watched these on TV as kids.
Yeah, this was like the equivalent to comic book movies at the time, of course. Something that I forgot to mention though, is I was talking to a couple of makeup artists and they were like, yeah, a lot of makeup artists love these movies. The guy who did the makeup for the Frankenstein monster would go on and do all the makeup for all these other, many of these other monster films. Jack Pierce, he was the guy who did the makeup for most of these films and kind of was the one who made everything kind of stand out for this character. But a lot of the stuff he used were stuff that he just had in his kit, and a lot of it was like, I don't remember, it was like colloidal glue and like stuff, but he would just pull things out of the kit. They didn't do prosthetics like they do today to make the special effects makeup for this film. It's because of that special effects makeup that they put in these films is one of the things that makes them more memorable. And you have a lot of these special effects makeup artists that are huge fans of these films just because of that alone.
Bela Lugosi nailed the performance of Dracula, but just the makeup coupled with Boris's just kind of slow lumbering. It is one of those things where you can't help but utter the word iconic. Overall, to kind of wrap up, on all fronts, it defeats Dracula, just in terms of engagement and even down to just superior filmmaking, like the way a story is told via filmmaking versus, you know, a staged play that happens to have a camera there. The basic themes of a creator creating something, having this bastardized father and son relationship with a child that's bigger than the father, you know, the mind of a child inside of a giant's body, trying to navigate that, not being welcomed into the world, culminating in this horrific moment of all these understandably terrified villagers burning him alive. That classic just being misunderstood by the world. At that point, he's killed 3 people. He is worthy of, you know, this street justice that he gets, but he didn't mean it. And so there's this element of tragedy there too. And so it all adds up to just a significantly deeper meaning than Dracula, where again, Dracula's deeper meaning is death is a gift. Eternal life is a curse. As much as people think living forever would be a good thing, it's a curse. This is also a theme in later iterations of Frankenstein, not so much this one. For this movie, it's more along the lines of don't try to play God, which is related to death as a gift, but not exactly the same. Science and religion crossing over and, you know, 2 sides of the same coin. But then ultimately, vampires being a warning against not having control over your sexuality. But those themes weren't completely illustrated by Dracula, but the themes that I just laid out for Frankenstein are completely realized.
Yeah.
He is very much a sympathetic character. You really do feel for him by the end as he's screaming for his daddy as he's being burned alive in this windmill. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me throw this in real quick. If you don't own this, you should buy it. You should buy this whole Frankenstein and then this Universal Classic Monsters. But yeah, this guy. This guy is awesome. Frankenstein guy. This monster of Frankenstein is iconic. So I'm told.
Wow. Get out of here. So who are we toasting to?
Boris?
Part of me wants to go straight to James Whale.
Maybe we should.
Boris is going to be in other films, but I think James Whale would be a more fitting.
James Whale upped the ante significantly. Going from Dracula to this. What is the biggest difference? Yeah, all the thematic stuff I just laid out. Anybody could have taken that stuff and run with it, but specifically James Whale is the man responsible for this giant leap from that which was Dracula to where we are now with Frankenstein. I keep saying Frankenstein. This jump to Frankenstein you can attribute to James Whale exclusively.
Yes.
So I think
100%.
Straight to James.
Cool.
Out of my Hofbrauhaus München Bierstein full of vodka to James Whale. We'll see you again, buddy, but you deserve this toast.
Yeah.
Very early on in this series.
Cool.
Happy Halloween, bitches.
Happy Halloween.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Why should I spend my time working in this dreadful business?
Do you miss it?
Making movies is the most wonderful thing in the world. Working with friends, entertaining people. Yes, I suppose I miss it.